Hey there, welcome back. Josh Hardy here. I wanted to follow up from last week's video about our autumn olive clearing project and the use of those brush piles for rabbit habitat. You may have also heard Jason on the recent Habitat podcast. If you haven't heard that, you should check it out. But on that podcast, he talked about our project. We're calling it Habitat Oasis Project. And the Habitat Oasis Project is taking 80 acres of reclaimed strip mine that hasn't been touched since the late 60s, early 70s. Ohio had a pretty aggressive project around reclaiming strip mine land, but the main thing that they planted in here was sericea lespedeza, and that's a low value, low quality browse for wildlife. Yes, it's pretty thick. It might provide some cover, but it was everywhere, and we weren't seeing any wildlife. We weren't jumping rabbits, we weren't seeing deer. And so the first thing that we started doing when we partnered with the USDA with an EQIP program was we started spraying and mowing the sericea lespedeza. What we found was we were getting native regrowth, so clovers, ragweeds, grasses, whatever, but the sericea wasn't coming back like it was before. So we spray it, mow it down with the brush hogs, and then the next thing we started to do, as you saw in the last video, was to start to take out some sections of autumn olive. So the cool part about this with EQIP is they're paying us to remove the autumn olive. So we get some cost share on that, and we have so much autumn olive that we're just taking out like a 3-acre section right now and making brush piles, and we get paid for each one of those. I'm going to put the amount we're getting paid in a title or something here, because I don't remember exactly what it was, but there's a significant amount of money that will help us with our efforts here. And the goal is, we know, and Jason always says this, the habitat is going to have to get worse before it gets better. What he means by that is, yeah, there's some benefit to the autumn olive, but we have better native plants that we can bring in, so we're going to do that. The other thing about the Rabbitat approach here is it's brush piles, so it's not just for rabbits. Nesting birds will use it, songbirds will use it, foxes, other ground creatures will use it. So there's a couple approaches that we're taking, and we've looked at a number of different methods from University of Wisconsin, University of Arkansas, a number of other research, as well as the Habitat page on Facebook, and there's a lot of ideas and opinions. But we've got so much of the autumn olive, we're taking a couple different approaches. One is stacking pallets. We can get a hold of pallets pretty easily. We'll put the pallets down, we'll put the brush on top of it. We're also using parts of some of this autumn olive is substantially in diameter, so we're cutting it into lengths, stacking it to create elevated areas to crawl under, and then piling the brush on. The other approach is using plastic conduit or plastic tile piping, and we've also got a significant amount of old ceramic tile. So we're using each of those to create tunnels and habitat underneath the brush piles, and sometimes a combination of both. We're also taking out the big rocks that we find laying around and using those. And then we've also read a bunch of research about the importance of mineral and salt. And everywhere that we've started a mineral lick, we've got rabbits showing up to that. So we're taking mineral blocks and salt blocks, breaking those up, throwing them into the piles, and we know that that will help improve the overall reproductive success of the rabbits. An article that I just read said that without the salt, they don't reproduce like rabbits. We know that they're prolific. That's not the case without the help of salt. So as you'll see from the aerial shots and some of the other footage that we've shared, we've got a tremendous amount of brush piles. One of the things they say, if you're hunting, you need to spread them out about 50 feet. That gives you time to get your shot as they're coming out of the brush piles. But the other thing is, if you put them too far apart, a coyote will have time to catch them before they get to the next brush pile. So we have placed them, not exactly, we have no specific grouping. We had to make them at least 8 by 8, and we've got some that are 20 by 20 and bigger. One of the things that we know from our research and from even our experience here is that a single large brush pile is not as beneficial as numerous brush piles. So we had started a brush pile about 2 years ago, stuff that I was bringing in from my yard actually, and started to pile brush back here. And we had some wildlife take advantage of that. But what we've seen out here, every time we come out, we see rabbits. And there's a ton of clover that's coming up, so there's food source for them. There's cover from predators from the sky or below. And the other thing that is really interesting about the autumn olive, when you look under the autumn olive, there's like no cover for rabbits. Now, and there's areas around here where the deer could find cover in there, but we've got pockets of it that there's no beneficial cover for rabbits. And you think some of these trees cover an area of 30 to 40 feet in diameter. When we take those out, some of them we've been able to just knock over and lay on their sides. We get that same coverage from that autumn olive on the ground as a benefit. The other thing, again, as an overall improvement to the wildlife and the habitat, is that the deer have actually not stopped using this area at all, but they actually browse around all of these brush piles. So we're actually creating a significant number of edges where new things can grow up, and there's more benefit there. And these brush piles should last somewhere between 6 and 10 years. They recommend refreshing them every now and again. I'm sure we'll continue to keep the autumn olive down and be able to continue to add to them. So that's all I have to share today about our habitat improvement project here, as we call it, Habitat Oasis project, where we're trying to build an inside out property versus an outside in. We want to be able to keep as much of the wildlife here on the property, attract as much of it, and give all of the necessities for habitat for them to stay here. So thanks for watching. Hit that like and that subscribe button. We've got a ton of habitat projects coming across the 150 acres that we own. 80 of it here on the Oasis project, another 70 including pond management back on the front 70. So hit that like, subscribe, tell your friends, and tune in. We will have more to share in the future. Thanks a lot.